Have you ever found yourself wondering why the person who seemed so perfect in the beginning suddenly turned cold, dismissive, and strangely similar to someone who only cared about themselves? The shocking link between avoidants and narcissists isn't what most people expect, and understanding this connection could save you years of confusion and heartbreak. While these two attachment styles appear different on the surface, they share disturbing similarities that create some of the most painful relationship dynamics imaginable. The truth about how avoidant attachment and narcissistic behavior intertwine will challenge everything you thought you knew about emotional unavailability. This revelation explains why some relationships feel like emotional warfare disguised as love, why certain people can make you feel invisible while claiming to care about you, and why the push-pull dynamic feels so addictive yet devastating. The patterns you'll discover today will help you recognize when avoidant behavior crosses into something darker and more manipulative. These insights will teach you to spot the difference between someone who struggles with intimacy and someone who uses that struggle as a weapon. Understanding this connection isn't just about protecting yourself from harm. It's about recognizing the subtle ways that emotional unavailability can mask deeper issues of empathy and genuine care. If you want to better understand someone's attachment style, see the link in the description to one of the most popular books on attachment theory. Picture a stunning afternoon in Manhattan where Serena van der Woodsen from Gossip Girl sat across from someone she thought might finally be different. For 6 months, this relationship had felt like a masterclass in emotional confusion. He would shower her with attention for weeks, making her feel like the most important person in his world, then disappear for days without explanation. When she tried to discuss their relationship, he would become defensive, accusing her of being too needy or dramatic. Yet somehow he always managed to make her feel like she was the problem. What made this particularly cruel was his ability to remember every detail about her insecurities and use them against her during arguments. He would say things like, "You know you have trust issues because of your past, so maybe you're just imagining problems that aren't there." The turning point came during what should have been a romantic dinner. Serena had spent days preparing to share something vulnerable about her childhood trauma. She had never opened up this deeply to anyone before. As she spoke, tears streaming down her face, she watched his expression change from what seemed like concern to something that chilled her to the bone, a look of satisfaction, as if her pain was somehow feeding something dark inside him. When she finished, instead of comfort, he offered criticism disguised as advice. "You really need to get over that," he said coldly. "It's not attractive when you make everything about your past." The words hit her like ice water, but what disturbed her most was the slight smile that played at the corners of his mouth. Later that night, Serena called her friend Blair Waldorf from Gossip Girl, desperate to make sense of what had happened. Blair listened carefully, then said something that changed everything. "Honey, this isn't just someone who's afraid of commitment. This is someone who enjoys having power over your emotions." That conversation led Serena down a path of research that revealed the terrifying truth about her relationship. Her partner wasn't just avoidant, he was using avoidant behaviors as a cover for something much more sinister. The revelation came when Serena realized that true avoidant attachment stems from fear and self-protection, while what she was experiencing felt calculated and cruel. A genuinely avoidant person pulls away because intimacy feels dangerous to them. They're not trying to hurt you, they're trying to protect themselves from what feels like overwhelming vulnerability. But her partner seemed to enjoy her confusion and pain. He would create distance not out of fear, but as a way to maintain control and keep her constantly guessing about where she stood. The final piece of the puzzle clicked when Serena discovered that he had been saying remarkably similar things to other women he was seeing. The personal details he shared about his childhood trauma, the specific ways he claimed to struggle with intimacy, even the exact words he used to apologize after disappearing. It was all calculated performance designed to evoke sympathy and forgiveness. This wasn't someone struggling with genuine attachment issues. This was someone using the language of attachment theory to manipulate and control. The story took an unexpected turn when Serena decided to confront him with what she had discovered. Instead of denial or shame, he became eerily calm and said something that haunts her to this day. "You're right. But you stayed anyway, didn't you? What does that say about you?" In that moment, she realized she had been dealing with someone who not only lacked empathy, but actually derived pleasure from psychological manipulation. The avoidant behaviors were just the delivery system for something much darker. Understanding the difference between genuine avoidant attachment and narcissistic manipulation disguised as avoidance requires careful observation and a willingness to trust your instincts. First, pay attention to consistency in their struggles. Someone with true avoidant attachment will show similar patterns across all their relationships and life areas. They'll struggle with intimacy with friends, family, and colleagues, not just romantic partners. Their avoidance stems from deep-seated fears developed in childhood, and you'll see evidence of genuine distress when they push people away. They don't enjoy hurting others. They're trying to protect themselves from anticipated hurt. In contrast, someone using avoidant behaviors manipulatively will show striking inconsistencies. They might be incredibly close with certain people while being completely cold with others. They'll share intimate details about their supposed attachment issues while simultaneously showing no real understanding of how their behavior affects you. Most tellingly, they'll seem to enjoy the power that comes from keeping you guessing about their feelings. When you express hurt about their behavior, a genuine avoidant person will show distress or guilt, even if they can't change immediately. A manipulative person will either blame you for being too sensitive or show that subtle satisfaction that something is wrong. Second, examine how they respond to your emotions and needs. Someone with avoidant attachment might struggle to provide comfort, but they won't deliberately target your vulnerabilities to cause more pain. They might be awkward or withdrawn when you're upset, but they won't use your emotional state against you later. A narcissist using avoidant behaviors as manipulation will remember every vulnerable thing you share and weaponize it during conflicts. They'll bring up your insecurities to deflect from their own behavior or to make you question your perception of reality. Third, look at their capacity for genuine empathy and growth. True avoidant attachment can improve with patience, therapy, and consistent care. These individuals can learn to recognize their patterns and work toward healthier intimacy, even if progress is slow. They'll show genuine remorse when they hurt you, even if they struggle to change immediately. Someone using avoidant behaviors manipulatively will show little to no real change over time. They might promise to do better or even attend therapy, but their core behaviors remain the same because they're not driven by fear. They're driven by a need for control and superiority. Fourth, trust your nervous system's response to their behavior. Genuine avoidant attachment might leave you feeling lonely or disconnected, but it shouldn't make you feel crazy or question your own reality. If you find yourself constantly second-guessing your perceptions, walking on eggshells to avoid triggering their withdrawal, or feeling like you're losing your sense of self in the relationship, you're likely dealing with manipulation, not just attachment issues. The most crucial skill is learning to distinguish between someone who hurts you unintentionally due to their own wounds and someone who hurts you strategically to maintain power. Like Emily Cooper from Emily in Paris navigating complex relationships, you need to become fluent in reading the subtle signs that separate emotional immaturity from emotional abuse. Someone with avoidant attachment will show genuine distress about hurting you, even if they feel unable to change. Someone using avoidant behaviors manipulatively will focus more on defending their right to behave poorly than on the impact of that behavior on you. Remember that healing from avoidant attachment requires the person to want to change and be willing to do uncomfortable emotional work. If someone constantly talks about their attachment issues but shows little evidence of actually working on them, or if they use their attachment style as an excuse for increasingly cruel behavior, you're not dealing with someone who's afraid of intimacy. You're dealing with someone who uses that fear as a cover for their inability or unwillingness to truly care about others. The intersection between avoidant attachment and narcissistic behavior represents one of the most confusing and damaging relationship dynamics you can encounter. The tragedy is that both stem from childhood wounds, but they manifest in vastly different ways. Genuine avoidant attachment creates people who desperately want love but fear it intensely. Narcissistic behavior creates people who want the benefits of love, attention, admiration, control, without the vulnerability and reciprocity that real love requires. When these patterns combine, or when narcissistic individuals learn to mimic avoidant attachment, the result is relationships that feel like emotional quicksand. The hope lies in your growing ability to discern the difference and respond accordingly. You don't have to accept poor treatment because someone claims to have attachment issues. You don't have to sacrifice your emotional well-being to prove your love is unconditional. Real love requires two people committed to growth and care, not one person endlessly accommodating another's refusal to change harmful patterns. Your emotional safety matters. Your need for consistency and respect in relationships is valid. Whether someone hurts you intentionally or unintentionally, you have the right to protect yourself and seek relationships that nurture rather than deplete you. Trust your instincts. Set clear boundaries, and remember that healthy love shouldn't require you to constantly question your own reality or worth. The most powerful thing you can do is commit to your own emotional education and healing. Learn to recognize these patterns early before they can take root in your heart and mind. Surround yourself with people who support your growth rather than exploit your vulnerabilities. Choose relationships that feel safe and stable rather than exciting and unpredictable. Your future self will thank you for the courage to demand better and the wisdom to recognize the difference between love and manipulation. If you've ever felt twisted up by an avoidant, you'll want to see why gaslighting feels worse with them. Watch the next video, Why Gaslighting Feels Worse with an Avoidant Partner.